All right. We are back. Soccer Dad Pod time. It is Zoom Thursday.
Yay, Zoom Thursdays.
We for those of you that know, we're cuddly, lovey, touchy, feely kind of guys. We like this stuff to be in person, but every now and then you just can't do it. As much as I would love to be down in the state of Florida on a day like today. Today feels like a fishing day. Like it's just one of those days. I don't want to work. You know,
I feel the same way. And I haven't actually worked a lot today.
Well, you do know people at Salesforce listen to this show, right?
I do. That's why I have to be really careful about what I'm about to say. I had medical appointments that I had to take my child to, which is why. Otherwise, I was heads down all the other time.
Yeah, BD, just selling. That's what you do.
That's what I do.
Zach, how are things going, man? It's been a minute.
Things are good, man. I kind of teased it, in our off camera, off mic discussion, but I'm holding up an acceptance letter, the official acceptance letter for Grady to the University of North Carolina at Wilmington. He was officially accepted this morning to start the spring semester as a freshman in Wilmington, and so we're very excited. It's kind of bittersweet, I'll be honest. Probably more bitter right now than sweet because our lives have revolved around what he does a lot for the last decade or so. So
yeah, it's funny you put it that way, because the other day I was literally having it wasn't a conversation with anybody. I was just sitting on the porch like Pablo Escobar by myself.
Just swinging.
Yeah, just swinging, like contemplating life. And I literally was thinking about when the kids are out, specifically when it comes to sports, because I don't think about it in terms of school and graduating and, they're going to move out. I don't think about that. I think about the things that we are actively engaged in, that the games you go, you sit, you watch, you cheer, you yell. And when that's all gone, I love my wife and all. And I don't mean to say and all. I love my wife. I should have left it at that. Period. Probably good. Yeah. But it's, I can see how there are certain people in the corporate world that never retire, right? Because they don't know what their lives would be without work. And as a in the weeds soccer parent, God, you imagine, when the games are over, what are you gonna do? Because it's not fun going to watch other people's kids. No offense to the other people, but it's just
Mandy
different.
Mandy and I just talked about this this morning, actually, because I say it's bitter, and it's not, because the sweet is going to overtake the bitter. It's just thinking about our lives and how drastically they're going to change, especially on weekends for the 10 months of the year.
Do you ever think? Do you ever think about your relationship with Mandy? Like, whenever this is all done, do you almost have to practice dating again? And what are you going to talk about?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm more worried about Beckett because he's going to be an only child in our household for about 5 years. But the sweet part, so another thing you can't see unless you're just listening, is I'm going to celebrate.
Jesus Christ, you got the blue label?
This is a blue label. It's only gets brought out for special occasions. And I think my son getting accepted to college for the first time is such an occasion. So,
well, you know what? This is total. You know what? This is total bullshit. Let me just call. Right. You're pulling out Johnny Blue on a Zoom call, knowing that we do less than 5% of these things on Zoom.
I know.
It seems awfully convenient. Jesus. Well,
hey, listen, I will pay you back, but
there we go. Soccer Dad Pod, we are back. We've got another, incredible NCAA Division I program guest coming on here in just a little bit. When they dial in, we're just going to jump straight in. In the meantime, quick recap. We had another one of those NCAA Division I hammers. Mr. Danny Freed, head coach, new head coach, first season head coach down at UNC Asheville, jumped on with us last episode. Just a class dude. He made his rounds. Wasn't sure, what direction he was going to go. He landed in Oklahoma for himself. Then pulled over into Mr. Seabolt, Coach Seabolt's world there at Missouri State, and really just kind of established a presence and name for himself. And when the opportunity came knocking, UNC Asheville was like, you're our guy. Year one, he's over there doing some amazing things. We talked to him about, his path and the program. And again, it's more of that, just a different view, different lens as to what's going on in the college soccer landscape and his own experience as a player and what he's looking for as a head coach in recruiting. And it was just fun. Great conversation. And just add it to the pile. So they say, but it really hard to talk to the dude and not be a fan. He was one of those coaches.
Well, and I think it's been interesting to see how, we did the live college, pathway session a couple weeks ago. I think we've got another one on the books coming up. And, we've got so many D1 coaches we've had on, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO, and we're just ratcheting up with our guests today. And I know we've got some other ones in the pipeline that we're going to be pretty excited about. And what's interesting, I find, and I need a new phrase for it's going to be interesting. I use the word interesting way too much. So I need a new word. And if
I wasn't going to say anything, but our AI bot that is that is practicing, he's like, the interesting guy is Zach.
Our word cloud says interesting. But yeah, I love the idea that we're getting the opportunity to talk to folks. And it's not just St. Louis area or even Missouri area coaches that we're talking to.
Yeah.
And that's exciting for our listeners. And it's a good way to get a different perspective on the pathway as well. And so I'm happy that we're able to provide that to the listeners.
Yeah, it's awesome. Today's guest, he's going to be on here shortly. If you're listening, you're wondering what you're going to be rolling into. We've got we got an Italian baller that, to Zach's point, played at quite frankly, the highest level in Italy at some major clubs. Transitioned over here to FIU as a player himself, and then now he's on the staff. Doesn't want to leave, so it's going to be fun. Points of the day within the world of sports/soccer in particular. There's a lot going on. Like, I didn't even take notes like in preparation of this because I'm like, shoot, can wing these off. I'm gonna let you go first because just in the event that you happen to pick the one that I would lead with, I'm going to give you the privilege since you're on a blue label day. What do you got?
I am staying away from soccer because I know we'll be talking about it quite a bit. I mean, there's so many different soccer stories we can dive into, and I'll let you do that. I just think, throwing out some old stats is kind of interesting. So on this day in 1928, Babe Ruth hit 3 home runs against the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Yankees swept the Cardinals in the World Series. The second year in a row the Yankees swept in the World Series. Now, 6 short years later, the Cardinals beat the crap out of the Tigers to win again. But I like to inject a little bit of Cardinals positivity onto the show every once in a while because there's just not a lot given that's going, it's playoff time and guess who's not in it. But also, for those that are listening a little bit later, today, on October 9th is the first home game for the Blues as well. So a lot of good stuff going on in St. Louis. City Boys are playing better than usual, which is nice. But that's all I've got for the big point.
So there's 2 things that I want to talk about. I'm going to talk about a soccer thing first. And this is one of those hot button topics that, well, let me put it this way. I like to stir the pot when it comes to pay to play and American soccer and the pyramid and chaos and none of it's working. And I know you'll vouch for me here. I have said repeatedly, that I don't necessarily agree that the big picture, the big thing is all broke. And specifically, I reference how we are quality, how we do compete, not only at a high level, domestically, but when our best national teams at the U15, 17, 19 age groups and above, when they go overseas, they do really, really well, right?
Yeah.
Case in point, FIFA Under 20 World Cup being played down in the Southern Hemisphere. Group E, which contains our beloved Stars and Stripes. The other teams are in New Caledonia. Like, I'll be honest, I would not be, and I'm pretty good at geography, but I would not be able to find that on a map.
No.
However, the other two, South Africa, I know where they're at. Not a powerhouse, but they're producing good international players. But the fourth team in the group is France. Now, I've heard of France, and I can find it on a map, and they're pretty good, right? U.S. won the group. 3 matches played, 2 wins, 1 loss, 6 points. Based on the goal differential and going through, they win the group. This is another one of those things, and I get it. Look, it's a small sample size. It's 3 games, and it's a singular tournament. But, it's we win, and I think that we have to, as a soccer nation, or if we want to become a, quote, soccer nation, we got to start looking at the glass half full stories. This is a glass half full story, and the story's still being told because they're going to advance to the next round. So I just kind of want to throw that out there, get your take, because I know where I'm going with this, because the amount of haters that are like, oh, it's all broke, tear it down, burn it, throw rel across the board, fire them all. You know what? At the end of the day, we still have plenty of examples of successes within our pyramid. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think my thoughts would be that, we do well in the youth ages. We always have. And St. Louis is a microcosm of that. Our youth teams have dominated for 40 years in, national competitions, even international competitions. Something breaks down, though, after that U20 age group, and we have not had that same repeated success into the, Olympic ages, and so I think that's where people start to think we've got to tear it all down. I don't agree with that. I think there are subtle ways that we can influence the pathways to the dominant national team. There's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of money involved that a lot of other countries just don't have to deal with. No other country on earth that I'm aware of has an NCAA that changes the pathway for, a big chunk of our nation's top players, and also integrates international players into that mix. We don't have a dominant USSF within the pro side of things, meaning MLS is not, pulling strings at the U.S. Soccer Federation in a way that I think could be beneficial. So I agree with you that the positive side is our youth programs. We have a lot of great youth players, and we do collate them into really strong under 20, under 17 national teams. How do we get them to translate that into, first team success?
Well, I thought I along these lines, one of the other news items that I saw was Jurgen Klopp has been hanging out here a lot lately. And he had a quote basically talking about MLS and evaluating the quality. And I'm going to paraphrase the whole thing down into the singular statement that really stood out to me. And that is, within 5 years, this is a top league. That's what he said. And this is after watching, academies and going to some games. And, obviously he knows the top players. They all, these guys all know who the top players are. But that's a pretty big pat on the back, so to speak, for where the league is at. And then you move over into the silo of the international competitions. And again, under 21, and even under 23, up to that point, we do well. Something falls apart. Is it a domestic coach that needs to fix it because it's a American culture thing? Is it a Jurgen Klopp and not a Pochettino? I don't know, but I don't think the issue is, this. And I hate the argument. Well, our best athletes are playing football, and that's a ridiculous argument.
Yeah, that's not even. Yeah, that's not a part of this to me. We have enough athletes in this country to go around. Grady got into it with some of his friends, and this is an argument any American soccer player growing up in the last 50 years has had, which is, why is soccer the hardest sport to play in American sports? And we could debate with anybody, but it came down to, for 90 minutes, you have to use your non-dominant appendages to move something and score. And there isn't another sport like that. Hockey would be the closest, but you're on for 80 to 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes before you're off. You're only playing a 60-minute game. It's already broken up into 3 periods. So hockey would be the closest thing. I think lacrosse might be one, but they're not a power sport yet.
Right.
So it's just interesting. Dang it, I did it. I was trying so hard. It's just something to think about.
Drink.
Yeah.
Drink.
Just how difficult it is, how much stress it takes, how much fitness and training it takes to be at a high level for soccer compared to some others. And I think where we get in trouble is we compare it to baseball or football, and there are specialty positions within both of those sports where you don't necessarily have to be the most athletic person on the field at the time. You just have to be really good at that one thing.
Yeah.
And that's not taking away from the talent and capabilities and the training for those folks, but those people that are specialists, let's say a reliever that pitches 3 innings max a game, could they go out and play 90 minutes?
Yep.
No.
I'm going to throw one last thing on the pile here before we take a quick break and bring our guest on. Thoughts on Landon Donovan's hair plugs?
I'm jealous because I've looked into it.
Oh my God. Stop.
No, I'm serious.
The dude went from 0.
Well,
I should say 7%.
Yes. So Donovan, it'd be like Jason Statham getting hair plugs at this point. Like, he's a bald guy. There's no,
and he keeps leaning into it.
Yeah.
Every single day there's a hair plug update.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, go on just type in Landon Donovan hair on any platform, and you're gonna see what we're talking about. It's kind of like the dude hit a midlife crisis well before midlife. I don't get it. Anyway, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking FIU soccer from afar, abroad, all of the above, NCAA, new conference, or not a new conference, their conference, some new members in the conference that we know. We're going to be breaking it all down. In the meantime, do us a favor, quick subscribe. We really appreciate it. Send it to a friend. It's free. It's easy. It's a tip. We don't ask for money anymore. We don't ask for tips. We can buy our own beers, and apparently Blue Label. So just send it to a friend. That's the easiest way you can help support the show. And when we come back, more soccer. We'll talk to you after the break. See you. What's up, Matteo?
Here we go. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Very good.
Zach, go ahead and show him the bottle that you're drinking, because I guarantee he's not drinking what you're drinking.
Oof.
Johnny Blue. He's bringing out the big gun for this one, man.
Yeah. The reason for this, Matteo. Yes. Well, I've got that too, with all my other stuff in it, like creatine and electrolytes. But my son was officially accepted to college today.
Nice.
And he's going to UNC Wilmington on a full ride. So he's leaving me in December and traveling down to North Carolina in a few months. And so just a little celebration.
Does he play sport? Does he play soccer?
Soccer, yeah.
Oh, nice, man. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I tell you what. Let me give you just a little bit of background first, so that before we get started, me, Zach, and then our third co-host that's usually here. He's not today. All three of our boys play soccer together. They're all 08s. Zach's son is a 26. Our sons are 27s. They were at Gallagher, then they were at St. Louis City. They were back at Gallagher. Zach's son worked with Tony Delafeld. So that's how Zach. That's how I was introduced to Matteo, was through Tony. So he worked with him, got him out to Wilmington. We're our boys are juniors going through the process, and this show is just really kind of we did it to kill time and drink beer and not get yelled at by our wives, because it's like, oh, look, we're being productive. And 3 years into it, it's just blown up.
Wow. 3 years. Beautiful.
Yeah, 3 years. Actually, 3 years October into this month. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So we just got done doing our intro. So in post production, I'll clean this all up here in a second. I'm just gonna come in. I'm like, hey, we're back. Soccer Dad Pod. Blah 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 blah. Guest is here joining us. I'm gonna name drop. And what I'm thinking is we'll just kind of go a little bit through your roots, a little bit of background. Where'd you play? What'd you do? How'd you land here? So like the first third of our conversation will be that. The middle third will be, let's talk about FIU. Let's talk about what's going on with the program. Let's talk about, maybe college soccer a little bit more generically. Yeah. And then the last third, we have no guardrails, so we'll just kind of feel out, what you're interested in, what we want to bring up, have some fun, talk some trash, do whatever we want to do.
Perfect, man. Sounds great.
That work?
That works.
Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start the recording on this side. The screen is recording already. So we have that. And Zach, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here we go. All right, everybody. We are back. Short break. Probably felt like a lifetime, even though I know it's only a couple of seconds because I do all the post-production. We're back. We've got our guest here on the line, zoomed in. As we indicated, this is not one of those usual sit around a table and a bunch of middle-aged white guys talking shit about soccer. We are zooming, and we're going to talk shit about soccer from afar. So Zach, we talked about it earlier. How's that Blue Label going down right now?
It's going down well, JB. I appreciate you asking. Again, I don't typically break that out, and maybe I will next time we get together, but we'll see. I also, just in case I ran out of Blue Label, I also have this Blanton's bottle about to crack open too, just to rub it more, and switching from Scotch to bourbon to make.
For all of you listeners that are loyal listeners, if you think that our sponsorships are going that well that he can have a bottle of Blue and a bottle of Blanton's, that's not the case. So if you did want to help us out, feel free to give us a call. We're open to NASCAR style sponsorships. So without further ado, now that we've covered our whiskey and bourbon, just secret stashes, joining us from over the pond. He's now on this side of the pond. He's down there in the great state of Florida at FIU. Assistant coach, Mr. Matteo Gasperoni. How's it going, Matteo?
What's up, guys? How are you? Hello, JP. Hello, Zach. Everything good? Very good.
You were introduced to me through Tony Delafeld, friend of the show. He's been a repeat guest on the show. He's kind of in the trenches doing the work that you guys really lean into, because obviously the amount of soccer players, not only domestically in every corner of the country here, but overseas and everywhere else. There's just a lot to choose from. And so a guy like that becomes a valuable asset. I talked to him a little while back and I said, hey, our fans really like these conversations. He's who do you like? Who are you working with that, good stories, good programs, and boom, Matteo, top of the list. And then there were others, and we're going to talk about the others later. But he was like, these guys are great. Really love the program. And oh, by the way, Tony just moved down there. He's living in the Tampa area now too. So, so thanks for coming on the show. And we always like to put a pin in the map for our listeners as far as the who, what, where, why. Where are you from? Because obviously that accent. Now, Matteo Gasperoni, most of our listeners are like, oh, here comes another guy from the Hill. But that's not the case. You are not from St. Louis, my friend.
Nope.
Where's so take a second, give us an idea. Where's home? I'm not going to ask you where you went to high school. That's a St. Louis thing. But talk a little bit about where your youth soccer, where'd you start playing, and give us a little bit of your pathway.
First of all, thank you guys for having me here. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. I'm from Italy. More specifically, I'm from Cesena, Italy. It's a small town near Bologna, so middle north of Italy. And yeah, I grew up in my city, and then I moved more north, where I played soccer for Atalanta, which is one of the best academies in Italy, one of the best teams in Italy. And then after a little bit, I decided to move to America and start my journey here in Florida. So now that's why I'm here with a background, an Italian background, but I consider myself. I would like to be one day also an American. So,
well, let's. I always appreciate people that are direct and to the point, but I do believe you were a little too direct and too to the point, because your resume is really impressive. Reading your bio, from 8 to 17, you were, at 17, you joined Atalanta, which is a Serie A, club, a really historic, legendary club. And then you also had some spells with the national team, and apparently the Italian national team, they're pretty good. I've heard about them. Take a second and talk about maybe a little bit of not necessarily the teams, but really kind of your mindset as a teenager growing up and playing in an academy for a professional club like that, and then getting the call to your national team and being privileged enough to wear the colors. Did you know that you wanted to be a pro? And talk a little bit about your dreams through that process.
Yeah, for sure. So let's start from the roots, the very beginning, where I started playing soccer when I was 6 years old. After 1 year, I already got recruited to a professional academy. I was a talented kid. So I started playing for Cesena, which is the city where I lived, where I grew up. It was one of the best academies in Italy. It's usually a second division team / first division. I was the captain for Cesena for about 10 years, from 7 years old to 17, actually to 16, so 9 years. And then during this time, I was called with the national team from U15 to U17. Had the pleasure to play with the top players: Donnarumma, Locatelli, Bastoni, Scamacca, many other players that now are famous. And then I got a call from Juventus when I was 16 years old. They wanted to buy me from Cesena, and Cesena decided to don't sell me. I was considered the best player in the academy, so they didn't want to kind of lose me that early. Maybe they wanted to sell me later, make a little bit more money. So my mind was already in Juventus, but I couldn't go. Played 1 more year in Cesena, and after that year, the club had some trouble financially, so they kind of had to sell me. And the year after, the best club interested in me was Atalanta, so I moved to Bergamo, which is the city where Atalanta is. Played 2 amazing seasons there. The first one, I also went with the first team for 6 months. I was in the bench in Serie A, which is the first, the first division in Italy, with top players. Great experience. Then I had some injuries. Moved back to Cesena for a second division team, which is still a very high level in Italy. And then when I, after a little bit, the club went bankrupt. Okay, so the club was not anymore in the second division. That's the moment where I started thinking to move to America. I received a very good offer from FIU, so I decided to move here. Played 2 amazing seasons here at FIU. We won many trophies. I won some individual awards as well as a midfielder. Sweet 16 NCAA tournament. For my last year of college, I decided to move again, and I went to San Diego to have an experience in the West Coast and play a different league, so a different conference. Very good year as well. We won the conference there as well. So all my years in college, I was able to win the conference, and then I decided to directly go into coaching. So I started coaching at San Diego.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to FIU.
So, Matteo, it sounds like you've chosen some of the more rural, quiet places to spend your time in America, like Miami and San Diego. So, unlike a lot of your, expats that have come over here and they get to a school in Iowa, and then they go to a school in Oklahoma. You just said, but I think I'm just going to stay on the coasts. It's going to be a little bit more like home. And so have you ever thought about moving into the Midwest? And if you did, why would it be St. Louis?
Honestly, since I had a good background, a good profile, I had many offers. And for me, Miami, it's a beautiful city, San Diego as well. So I kind of decided to go there.
I guess when you play for a couple, get some caps for the national team, you're playing in Serie, the offers are probably substantial, and you can kind of be a little more choosy about where you go. And I want to talk about that a little bit. Not a lot. I want to talk about that a little bit. Yeah. And I want to get your thoughts, because now that you're on the coaching side with U.S. NCAA teams, you did it at San Diego. Now you're at FIU again. From a recruitment standpoint, there seems to be some discussion, and I know there is, around equity and equality from an American standpoint versus someone coming from, say, Italy or the UK or Spain. In the US, if a player wanted to play in college but was playing for Inter Miami's academy, if they got a first team opportunity to play, they're most likely going to lose their eligibility to play at FIU.
Yeah.
But for somebody who comes from Serie or the EPL or La Liga, they don't. Yeah. In fact, they have a significant advantage in some cases when they come over here. So I'm not trying to poison the question. But I want your perspective on somebody who got that opportunity, and now you're recruiting not only kids like you, but kids that grew up, in Florida or grew up in Texas, love to play for their first team. So talk about that a little bit as to your thoughts on how that process works, and I'll ask some pointed questions after that, but I want to get your initial thoughts first.
Yeah, no, for sure. It all depends. There's a lot of aspects that you need to evaluate when you recruit. For the international players, it depends. It doesn't really mean if you were a professional level. It depends if you played, if you received money. There is a lot of things that they count for that. For American players, obviously, it's a little bit more strict, also because it's easier to understand where they come from, etc. But look, we recruit both Americans and internationals. Obviously, we have a lot of internationals. We are also called Florida International, but I also know that there are top American players right there. Sometimes we play against teams that they have 9 of 11 starting players that are Americans, and they're top. So I just think sometimes the top American players, they go to Stanford, they go to Portland, they go to top 10 division, Clemson, and for us, it's not always easy to recruit those top prospects, because FIU we consider a top team. Sometimes the top Americans would love to play for this kind of university I just mentioned. So we have a broad experience outside the US, and we know European soccer, we knew South American soccer very well, and sometimes you can find like diamonds over there where maybe you don't have a lot of competition in recruiting. You know what I mean? So, for example, I brought 2 Italian players this year. I think they come from a background, or they were not very well known for the other universities, but are doing really, really good for us. So
let me ask a question. I want to interject, and I want to take you back just a little bit. I want to hit the rewind button. I want to go back to you specifically.
Yeah.
Because you had this kind of youth experience, this youth career in which you were fully expecting to slingshot to the next level, to the pro level. Yes. Within Italy. You're getting the national team looks, etc. And then right around that 17, 18 year age, point, you mentioned that you started thinking about America. Mm-hmm. I'm really curious what that means, because there's a global perception, or really there's a self-deprecating American perspective that, we're the little brother, Italy, Germany, England, blah, 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 all these other nations, which justifiably, are way more advanced when it comes to the game across the board. Mm-hmm. What was it? At what point did you start to think, oh, America, and colleges in America? How did that pop into your head?
Yeah, for sure, man. Look, when I was at the top level, I was 17, 16 years old, playing for Atalanta national team. I was not thinking about America. I'm going to be completely honest. But then when I had a time of my career where I had injuries, my club went bankrupt, I kind of realized that maybe I lost a little bit like the train, let's say, to go play Serie A. And I didn't know anything about NCAA. Just a guy reached out to me and said, look, you're a perfect profile to play Division 1 in America. Would you be interested in going there? I can put you in contact with a lot of schools. And
let me pause. I'm going to ask some questions about the process. So who was this? An agent? Was this a college scout? Was it a particular school? And when they said, hey, I think you have a profile that would be great in Miami, or somewhere in America, who was that, and what did that look like?
It was an Italian agent that was doing this already for other players. So he had an experience playing himself in college soccer 10 years ago. And then he opened his own agency in Italy, and he kind of goes scout players that can be top for American soccer. Maybe he kind of feels when a player needs a new challenge, you know what I mean? He kind of understands when it's time to offer this to the players. He is a smart guy. He always, even right now, I recruit players from him. So I think he's a good agent, and that was the first time I thought about America, and then I developed all my thoughts. I got more info, and it was everything.
So the last question I have along this string here is, I was reading an article, actually it was this morning, where somebody was talking about the compare and contrast of these 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old individuals that are soccer players, the difference between American players and what they have in front of them here in America, and then European players, and the argument was being made in that the college environment in America is a much more appealing kind of landscape for those players that are in that age group, because the relationship between a high level education, or just kind of a college education in general, and the sport, it's not married to one another, in Europe and most places as it is here in America. When you started to think about, the prospect of coming over here, was it purely soccer? Was it a bachelor's in business administration? You're like, oh my God, I can get a degree as well. Where did the actual college part, or the educational part, come into your mindset or your thinking?
Absolutely. No, I think the most appealing thing that college soccer offers is that it's not only soccer, but it's college. So, for example, for me, I completed my bachelor in Italy, and then I came here for a master's degree. So it was, for me, it was very appealing, the idea of having like scholarship to like study in the US and play soccer at a high level, which is not possible in Italy. It's very difficult in Europe. South America, same thing. So I think college soccer is amazing for that, man. Like the opportunity to do both things. Everything is so well connected together. Professor speaks with coaches. It's something that we really don't have. We cannot even think about it in Italy. In Italy, if you play soccer, the professor hates you because you play soccer and you cannot focus on school. If you are focused on school, the coaches say, but you are too focused on school. You know what I mean? So it's always a pleasure to come here and see how everything works so smoothly together. And every guy that I recruit, I bring here, everyone is impressed. Everyone is like, damn, that works so well for us. And
well, I mean, look, let's be honest. Here's what you do. You get them from the airport. You take them straight to South Beach, and you're like, what do you say?
Look, you know? When I recruit them, I have to be honest. When I recruit them, I go to South Beach and I show them where I am.
Yes. Yeah, I would too. I mean, that's how we got to Wilmington. I mean, they took pictures from the beach, and now it's not South Beach, but I do have a question though, because Matteo, you brought up something that's interesting, and JB and I were talking about this in the intro about how American soccer to some people is broken because we don't have a consolidated approach to the national team like in Italy. You're talking about the positive side of the NCAA system, how it works with the different, professional agencies. So I guess my question is, JB kind of alluded to this, but were you coming to America to continue your soccer career, or was it to continue your education and you just happened to get to play soccer as well? Is that what's appealing to the folks you're recruiting, is not only do you get an education, you get it paid for, and you get to play soccer. So just how do you sell it to an international player?
No, it's a great question. For me personally, I was more focused on the school side. I was more focused on, okay, I graduated with a master's degree, and then I'll find a job in the US. I want to stay over there probably and have a career there, But then I have to be honest, once I started, I was so impressed with the level that I didn't expect to play at such a high level. And the opportunities came. Like I got Inter Miami called me for a combine. So I was like, maybe I can like go pro in the US. This didn't happen, but I think sometimes players come here with the expectations of, okay, I use soccer to get my degree. You know what I mean? Other players, maybe younger, they come here with a different mentality. With like, I go there mainly to play soccer. So it's really different between like people. For me, it was more like, let's focus on school. But then like soccer became so important. Soccer was always very important for me. But in the US, became very important that I didn't expect. Other players come like with the mentality of, okay, I try to do my best in school, but my focus is on soccer. So it depends. For me, it was more school. For others, more soccer. But the thing is, you can do both at such a high level. So that is fantastic.
So let's talk a little bit about FIU, because you mentioned that the agent that you were working with had the connections, and you were looking at a bunch of different options. Take a second to talk about some of the other schools that were options to you, and and walk us through the decision to choose FIU. What was it about the school, and what did you like, and what drew you in?
Yeah, so I remember clearly my agent sent me like a list of, I don't know, probably 40 schools that offered me a scholarship, which was fantastic because like I didn't expect, but at the same time I didn't know anything about these schools, So for me, I had to start researching which school were where, what program did they offer, what the ranking in the NCAA, what's the ranking as a school program, what's the level of education. So I remember clearly University of Pittsburgh offered me a full ride, which is a very good soccer team. It's always like in the top 10. This year they're not having a great year, but they're always top. After 2 years at FIU, I remember clearly Portland called me for a full ride as well. I decided to go to San Diego, but I remember these two as like big offers for me. Many others in California. I remember I was talking with this UCLA. It was not a full ride, but they were offering me like good scholarship.
So what was it about FIU? What was
FIU? FIU
was it South Beach? Was it the coach? Why'd you say that's my place?
So there was a master's degree that I really want to study, which was in organizational psychology. And so I did my bachelor in psychology, and I wanted to do that type of master's degree. And not many schools offer that type of degree. So FIU offered that degree. It was in Miami, location that I really wanted to go. And also the coaching staff was amazing in the recruiting process. So all these three things combined together let me think okay, this is the right choice for me.
So you've got a master's degree in psychology. You have another master's degree from the University of San Diego. What is that in?
Correct, in business analytics.
Okay, so business analytics, psychology, undergrad in psychology, and you're coaching not only at FIU, but you're also coaching, I think, are you still with Juventus Academy?
Yes. I work for them. I also have the MLS Next team, Athletum, which is a new MLS Next here in South Florida.
Okay.
Connected with Juventus Academy. They are the same owners. So I do both things, yes.
So I feel like your proximity to that team owned by Mr. Beckham and currently staffed by Lionel Messi, with your combined athletic abilities and experiences and your academics, you'd be a great fit to take over that team at some point. Is that a goal?
I would love to. Look, I would love to go in the pros. I would love to go to Inter Miami, so I'm there.
It feels like you're on that track, Matteo, and I'm not just trying to blow smoke. I feel like you've set yourself on the right path, and so I'm not asking you to talk about what's next because you're currently employed by FIU and these others, but it sounds like your dream is to make it into.
I won't tag them on the release. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So is that what you're looking to do? Is go into MLS or USL and get into the pro levels within the United States? Yeah,
honestly, I'm open to both careers, the college career and the pro career. I would love to be also a head coach in college. It's really interesting for me, that position, because I feel like the head coach has a lot of power in terms of decision making. It's like kind of an English manager, where you can have control on multiple things, and I feel like I could one day be very performant in that position. Also because I'm very familiar with college soccer right now. But yeah, look, if I have an offer from pros, I will go at some point. I'm open to everything. I'm not close-minded. I'm willing to grow and very ambitious. So let's see what happens.
So how is it working with Coach Russell? Because I was reading earlier, he's a Chicago kid. He's from up in the Elgin area, I believe, if I read correctly. He's down there in South Beach himself. It's a little bit different than Lakeshore Drive. Talk a little bit about maybe your relationship with Coach Russell, kind of the vibe, a little bit of the culture, the program, what you guys maybe focus on, or what you're looking for. Because as you stated earlier, we can look at the roster. It's an eclectic roster. So what's the spine? If you were to describe the program, what does it stand for? And what could a potential player that's interested in going to FIU, what are they expecting out of the staff and the culture of the program?
Yeah, great question. So Coach Russell came in at FIU in 2020, for COVID. Before that, FIU was always a good team. But I feel like when he arrived, he really changed things over there. He recruited me and other 17 players in 2021. And that's that year we were fantastic. We were able to win the conference. We beat number one in the conference. In America, which was Marshall, was a great year. The year after, we won even more. conference and conference tournament, Sweet 16 NCAA tournament. So I feel like he really changed a little bit the history of FIU men's soccer. That's why also after my year in San Diego, he called me back because he knew that like what I was, what he could expect from me, my mentality. So we have a great relationship. Obviously, it's a working relationship, so sometimes it can be better or worse, depending also the results that your team have. We, as a staff, we are very demanding with each other, members of the staff, and with the players. So an FIU player that get recruited, when he comes, he already knows what he is expected to do, because we have so many calls with them. From a physical point of view, they are required to come in ready, because in college soccer you come in August and you don't have the time to do a physical preparation like in Europe, where you have 2 months before the first game of the season. Here you have 2 weeks maybe. So the guys need to come in fit. We are a very high pressing team, where like everyone must attack and defend. So there is for sure like a physical component that is very important for us. And then like mentality wise, we want like professional kids, like we're not professional, but we want to act like we are professional. We want players that take care of their bodies, eat healthy, sleep at the right time. They don't come to Miami to party, and they understand what's the standards here. So we're very big on behaviors, standards, all of these mentality things that our guys, I feel like they know. They know.
Well, let me ask you a fun question. Given that you are of Italian descent, Maldini, right? Is probably. I mean, what is he? Number 1, number 2? He can't be below number 3 in Italian folklore when it comes to soccer players.
Best defender for sure.
Yeah. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with this, because there's everybody loves to debate style of play, like the English. Well, they really don't have a style anymore because the EPL is just loaded with everybody. But the way the Spanish team plays, very very fluid, very very tiki taka, right? The French a little bit more creative. Germans are very methodical, but Italians historically have been known as, we are going to be defensive wall, good luck trying to get past us, i.e. through the lens of players like a Maldini. You being an Italian yourself, how much do you, because you talked about we're a high press, high attacking team, but we, does defense win championships? Do you agree with that statement?
I agree. So at times, this Italian aspect of me comes out in the office, where I say, okay, maybe this game we can a little bit more be conservative and be in a mid block, defending a little bit more, because we know the other teams, like we play sometimes like top teams. This year we played NC State and Portland. They were ranked number 1 and number 2. So you have also to respect the opponent. Sometimes it's not that high pressing means no respect, but you have to understand that sometimes you might be a little bit more protected, in the middle lower area of the field. So definitely I bring my point of view and my Italian background. That's the good thing about our staff. We are all from different backgrounds. Coach Kyle is from Chicago. Coach Merida is a Miami guy that played and coached in different areas of America. He's originally a Latino guy, and me, Italian. We always have like different opinion, and that's why I think together we work well, because we are not scared of explaining or like express our opinions to each other, and the result is a mix of everything.
So I have a couple kind of technical questions that are a little bit unrelated to the style of play, but more what you were talking about earlier about your expectations of players coming into FIU, as in August. How important is the spring session for FIU? And then the follow up to that, how important is it to your program that your players are set up with some sort of semi-pro or some sort of other league in the summer? So it's two-part questions. One, how important is the spring session? And then secondly, the summer prep where they're, hopefully playing for some other semi-pro or other team.
Yeah, very, very good question. We have a very different spring schedule compared to most of the college teams, because first of all, we start very early at FIU. School start the first week of January. I know in the West Coast at times they start in February, very late. So we kind of start immediately the new year, and we end not late, around the end of March. We are almost done. And in the spring, you're allowed to have 4 or 5 games, not more than that. And we always schedule pro teams, MLS, USL Championship. Last year we played Kansas City. 3 years ago we played Orlando City. We played Inter Miami. So we try to challenge our guys every time. We don't we don't schedule in the spring soft games just because we want to give an opportunity to these guys to prove themselves against pro players, and also to see what MLS is. Also invite scouts to the games, to have our guys exposed to scouts at a very good level and a good game. So yeah, that's our schedule in the spring. Intense 3 months. Practice are still very hard, and 5 good games. Then we give the guys a little bit of rest, because obviously between fall and spring it's a lot. And then we suggest, and we also send a lot of them to USL2 for summer league.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys want to go back to their countries. We focus on individual training. Maybe we give them programs. We follow up with them for gym sessions, running sessions. For example, for me personally, in the summer I needed a break, but I was working very hard on my body. I was making sure I was working physically more than with the ball, so that when I started the season in August, I kind of miss the feeling of having the ball in my feet. I wanted to win games, wanted to play with my team, because sometimes USL2 is also challenging, and some guys might come a little bit injured because they played 10 games at a good level. So it's kind of sometimes it's beneficial, and sometimes a little bit less. It depends also what's your body require, and what's your need. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. I appreciate that. And the reason I asked that question is because I think we still have folks that listen to the show that don't understand kind of the rigor of a D1 college athlete for soccer. It's not just August to December. And understanding kind of the commitment outside of your contracted time. I think that's an interesting topic. That's why I brought that up. I appreciate you responding to that.
Of course, man.
Let me ask you this question, because we were talking about a little bit of you alluded to the recruiting process. You talked a little bit about the culture there, and I just want to get your take and your opinion on a little bit of the state of the union and the reality of number one, the transfer portal, and kind of the fluidity that we're seeing within NCAA soccer in particular. Twice a year, the portal opens up, and there's just this, outflow and inflow of players all over the place. There's, you're recruiting from afar. You're recruiting at the MLS Next events and ECNL events. Mm-hmm. How do you balance that with kind of what you talked about, you and Coach Russell and the staff, where, FIU is important. FIU has a brand. FIU has a culture, and yet you are dealing with, this kind of like a short-term rental scenario with players. How hard is it to balance really selling a culture and a long-term buy-in for a player, to come to the school and get a degree, and you're going to love it here, and, the campus and the life, and versus, okay, this guy's got, 2,000 minutes and we only need him for a season, and then, they're going to be out. How do you balance those two?
No, it's definitely we first see which is the player that fits our culture. You know what I mean? First of all, we do a big how do you say, like we have a pool of 300 players, we reduce it to 40, for next year, and then we reduce it to 10 or whatever we need. And it's sometimes it's not a big problem for us to sell FIU, to be honest, because campus is amazing, the city is amazing, the school is very good, we have amazing facilities. So we have a PowerPoint where we show everything to all the recruits, and they always like impressed with that. It's difficult that they are not interested in us, but at the same time, we like, before we talk with the players, we have a lot of like, does this player check these boxes? You know what I mean? So already when a player has a conversation with us, he already skipped like step 1, step 2, step 3. He's already at step 4, maybe. So yeah, this is. I hope I responded to your question.
Yeah, no. I totally get it. I mean, because it's one of those things like, I think there's a lot of perception, because historically in American collegiate sports, the signing day, and the kid picks the hat and puts the hat on, and it's in many cases maybe there's like a dad or a grandpa that went to the school or whatever. Like there's a little bit more of like a bloodline, so to speak, through these universities, and they're going in as a freshman and they're expecting, well, I'm going to be there for 4 years. But that's really not kind of what we're seeing anymore. And the question was really like more along the lines of how hard is it to sell a culture whenever the short-term relationship is as short as it is? Okay. That's really the question.
No, it's a good question, man, because we've seen in the past players that didn't work out for us and they transfer after 1 year. It's a great question. We obviously, our plan when we bring a player in is to take them until last year of eligibility. If a guy has 2 years, you want to have 2 years with them. If a guy has 4 years, we want to have 4 years with them. But then there is a business aspect, there is a business component, because obviously if a player is on a lot of money, a big scholarship, and he doesn't perform at all, then at the end of the season, we got to talk to them and like try to see what's the best solution for both. This happens a lot. This is never what we want. It means kind of we fail in the recruiting process or something happened because the idea is not that, but this can happen. Obviously, this year, for example, we recruited 18 players. There is always one or two that they don't reach the expectations, and there are 3 or 4 or 5 that exceed the expectation. That's where we really are happy with our work. When we bring a guy that maybe we cannot offer a big scholarship with this guy, and then this guy really take over another player and play a lot of minutes, and then we reward them with more money the year after. That's how a little bit how it works.
Yep, got it. Go ahead, Zach.
Matteo, I just want to thank you for coming on. It's been really cool to get to know your background, and you've done a lot of amazing things in this sport, and it's going to be. This isn't the end. I'm positive of that, and I'm looking forward to mapping your career. I wish I had been to San Marino and near where you grew up. Florence is the closest I've been, and I love Florence and I love Italy, but I need to get over to the eastern side of Italy soon, and I'll be calling you for some advice. But my last question for you, because I actually have to go to a soccer game for my youngest, is do you have advice for the American kids that are looking to go to a school like FIU, that are looking to play at the next level in Division I or any college for that matter? Are there any words of advice you give to them that would be a little different than your recruitment pitch to somebody from Italy?
No, yeah, I have a different type of advice for sure for American players. First of all, try to get exposed as much as possible. So if you can go to as many ID camps as possible where there are multiple coaches looking at you, that definitely helps you. Also, like a lot of agencies are very well connected nowadays where they can kind of sell your profile a little bit better. Also, for myself, I talk with agents that I trust more. I'm more willing to see this player, rather than an agent that I'm not very familiar with. So there are different ways to get exposed. Definitely, like try to even watch, multiple D1 games to understand what's the level. It's a different game. It's not a pro. It's not MLS. You know, a lot of kids watch Champions League, they watch MLS, but then they play D1 and they are surprised. So try to get familiar with the level. Try to understand how these teams play. What's the challenges that there are on the field for a player every game, and try to make sure in your trainings you work on that. You know. There is in college soccer, there is a lot of like the mental aspect is huge because you play 2-3 times a week, you travel a lot, you have such a short window of time where you have to perform. That is completely different than pros or academies where you have like 10 months where you can have like good periods. You know, maybe I have a good fall and I have 1 month not very good, then no, it's college soccer, it's 3 months. If you're injured, you're out. So really take care of your body and try to play as much as possible in a level that challenge you also like mentally. You know, you have tough times, how you overcome, how quickly you overcome. Those are for me like big things, other than obviously developing your technical abilities and practical, you know.
Love
I
it.
appreciate that.
Well,
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Hey, Zach, I know you got to go. I'm going to give you the tap out moment. I'm going to stay on the line here for a second with Matteo, ask a couple more questions. So good luck tonight. Enjoy your blue later on.
Yeah.
More of
Thank
your
you,
blue.
Matteo. Thanks, JD.
Until next time, Zach. Adios.
Enjoy your game.
Matteo. So I noticed in your profile too that not only obviously you're on staff at FIU, you coach the MLS Next Academy down there, but you had a little bit of high school experience that was blended in there. Can you just take a second and talk a little bit about, you know, in this amount of time, because it's one thing to come over, you know, as an international player to play Division I soccer, because so many teams are really kind of blended with global players. But when you coach a local club, that's 100% local. That's 100% domestic. The high school obviously is even more so. Can you just take a second and talk about maybe your own opinion or thought as to, you know, where some of the youth soccer is here in America? Because before you came on, we were talking about the under 20 men's national team, how they won their group at the World Cup. You know, but you know, taking down France, they lost to South Africa, but they win the group. You know, we seem to do well internationally with our first team at the U15, 17, 20, 23 ages, and then it all falls apart, you know, with our first team. And the argument that's been made is like, oh, the issues in our youth, you know, in our youth programs and pay to play and all this other stuff. Can you take a second and just give me your thoughts as to how good is youth soccer here? How far off is it from what you experienced, and what do you like about it? Maybe what do you not like about it?
Yeah, good question. I watch a lot of MLS Next games. I go see the local kids to see if we can recruit for FIU. It's very hard, I have to be honest. Like, we have 2 Miami kids right now at FIU, which is a high number for us. But it's really hard for me to see like a player that can be highly competitive at FIU right now. I think it's not mostly because of the technical abilities, because there are kids that are good on the ball. I see like they have abilities, they're fast, they move the ball well, both feet. But it's more like, I feel like the mentality of these players is a little bit lacking in terms of, I don't know if it's, I remember when I was playing in Italy, we were playing for our life. we were competing against each other in training. Like my teammate, yeah, it was my teammate, but also was the guy that might take my spot on the field on Sunday and might take my dream away to play pro. You know what I mean? So it was more like a life or death. You know, I feel like these players, these guys come from a good background, good families, and they know that maybe they have a second chance to do something else in life. And sometimes I don't see the fire, you know what I mean? I don't see the desire to like this game, we gotta win it. Like we gotta, you know, it's this that for me is missing a little bit in US college soccer. It's a little bit the mentality, the desire of every player to emerge, to show that they want to really win this game. They want to really defend this result. These kind of things that I felt like when I was growing up, we had it a little bit more. Yeah.
So do you think that, being close to, being on the staff that you're on, and then obviously through the MLS Next environment and all these individuals that have their, their C or B or A licenses, as opposed to some of just kind of the rural environments in soccer nations like a Brazil, like a France or in Italy or Germany, right? They play. Do you think that we are over coaching our youth and not just putting them in an environment in which they can play and compete and figure it out that way? Because it just feels as if the soccer IQ, right, compounded or added on to the passion, it's not equating, even though we have super technical kids.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think a lot of kids are very I can see they're very academy based, you know what I mean? Like very clean on the ball. First touch is clean. But then maybe they miss a little bit of creativity. They miss a little bit of fight defensively. It's more like my suggestion for these kids is play as much as possible, even outside your hours in your training. You cannot just play 2 hours every day with your coach and think you can become a pro. You got to play with your friends. You got to play in the park. You got to play, you know what I mean? Like this is where you literally, because if you imagine, like it's just statistics. If you touch the ball 100 times a day, it's okay. If you touch the ball 3,000 times a day for every day of your life, at some point you're gonna you're gonna be a better player. You know what I mean? It's very simple. So I remember when we were young in Italy, we were playing everywhere in the street. We were playing with our friends for hours, 10 hours a day. We were playing our practice, and then we were playing before. I feel like developed a lot of skills doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you learn how to win.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So okay. Now that we solved world problems, now I'm going to ask you the really, really tough question before I let you go here. You're from northeastern Italy, correct?
Yeah.
Red sauce or white sauce?
Oh, red. Ragu.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
No, man, it's so funny because my wife's family, the Bertettos, they're from way northern Italy, probably closer to Germany than anything. They don't refuse red sauce. They'll eat it, but it's white sauce. Like they want the cream, they want the meat, and all that. Pasta's ancillary. Hey, Coach Gasperoni, man, I really appreciate you jumping on, especially here in the middle of the season. You guys are 500, right? 552, something like that.
Yeah, correct.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel going into the end of the season? You guys going to make a run?
We have 4 very important games. We decide everything in the next 4 games. We have still a chance to win the conference, which is huge for us. We got to win and try to go NCAA tournament. This is the expectation for the rest of the year.
I love it. Well, hey, thank you very much for joining us. I'll make sure and put the link to the school and everything in the show notes for anybody that wants to go and check it out. And I can't thank you enough for your time. And the one thing we didn't mention is one of your Hall of Famers down there is one of our own. He was a guest. He's a friend, Mr. Steve Ralston. You probably see his picture on your walls down there in the at the facility. One of FIU's greatest. So little St. Louis tie. Had to throw that out there.
Amazing. That's great to hear. JB, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really enjoyed it. And thank you again.
All right, we'll do it again. Take care, man. And thank you for listening, everybody. Like, review, follow, share. All that stuff is free. I appreciate it. And until next time, Soccer Dad Pod, we're out of here.